this is, why am I so, I'm like nervous, and I hate that for me, but I never go live on this account, so I'm a little bit nervous. But hi everyone, I hope you are well, or as well as you possibly can be. Hi, thank you for joining. Today, honey, today is a very special day. Today is the last full moon of 2021. I'm feeling it so viscerally. It's also the day that Venus goes retrograde. So if we're feeling this, know that we are feeling it together. Thank you everyone for joining. And so I kind of wanted to hop on to kind of just facilitate a little bit of like a full moon ritual, a way to be intentional about not only using this last full moon to release what it is we want to leave in 2021, but to walk into 2022 with more intention. Grand Rising. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, cool. So for those of you joining, if you really want to participate, all you really need is a journal, because we'll be journaling a little bit together. Water always, I don't know if we'll actually use it in the breath work. So basically what we'll do is we'll kind of open up with like an intention setting. Thank you. This is my color healing line. You can get it on my bio if you'd like to. Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining. But yes, okay, so we'll start off basically with a breath, an intention setting breath. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on astrologically as far as like this full moon, but also the retrograde. And if you know your rising sign, I'll let you know exactly how this is impacting you and how you'll be experiencing this. And then we'll move into some breath work. Well, some journaling and some breath work. So anyway, yes, I'll give everyone like a minute if they want to go get a journal or like light an incense. I've got her going. We love that for me. But yeah, and if you want to just like tap in and tell me how you're feeling, I am feeling scattered. I'm feeling all of the things. I'm feeling a little bit just overwhelmed, but also very excited because I think, obviously I'll talk more about it, but we're in a really reflective state when it comes to like what this year has taught us, not only about what our fullest potential looks like, but how we've been standing in our own way of being in our fullest potential. So I think it's a beautiful time to not only reflect on what you've learned, but to like implement whatever action looks like standing in that truth. Yes, water, definitely. Sometimes we like to pray over water. We'll see if we do that today. We'll flow with it, babe. Okay, beautiful. So wherever you are, I just invite you to move your body. If you haven't, you may be in an earlier time zone, so this may be the first time that you're kind of doing really anything intentional for the day. So stretching out your body. Yeah, oof. Oh, OT, my baby. I was supposed to hug you this week. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, stretching out the body, moving the neck, the shoulders, allowing yourself to be fluid and present, letting your body say whatever it needs to say. It's midnight here. Ooh, girl. And when you're ready, you can meet me at your center, bringing either your hands to your heart center or wherever they organically fall. Settling in, feeling presence, feeling within the body. Taking a deep and full inhale from the nose, filling up the chest completely. Grabbing hold of that breath. And sighing it out. Once again, taking another full inhale in through the nose, filling up the chest completely. Grabbing hold of that breath. And releasing. One last time, grabbing in full, complete breath, filling up the chest. Letting it marinate. And releasing. And checking in with your body, settling into some stillness for a moment. Knowing that with so much going on around us and with us being in a state of go, we probably don't even give ourselves enough time to ask our body how it's doing and what it's holding. So if any tension, if any emotion is showing up in a physical part of your body, I invite you to bring your hands there or simply your awareness if that's more comfortable. For me, it's the mid-abdomen. Wild. Sending yourself love, sending yourself support. Affirming I am safe, or I am here, or simply I am, whatever comes intuitively. And before we move into our time together, bringing your hands to heart center. If there's any intention that you want to set, maybe it's for this morning, for this moon, for this new year, you can plant that seed in your heart right now. Breathing into that intention. And coming back to body on the exhale. Yes, beautiful. We love a good breath. We love a good aligning our frequencies, all at the same vibe. So basically what we'll do now, as you kind of come more to, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on, which, like, spoiler alert, is a lot. We'll journal a little bit. We'll do some breath work, and then you can be on your merry way. But yeah, so obviously last night and into today, honestly into the next few days, we're in this full moon energy, and this is the last full moon of 2021, and it's a beautiful one to work with because we have Jupiter kind of doing its thing and conjoining as well as the ascendant, the same thing as rising. Yes, so it's important to know your ascendant, because I'm going to talk a little bit about how this moon will specifically affect you in regards to your rising sign. So get that if you don't have that. But yes, before I even talk about the full moon, I do want to talk about Venus retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, because this is such a potent energy. And if you have been feeling to any degree cathartic or in a state of reflection, in a state of like, I don't necessarily have a lot of control over what's happening or how things are moving, or I'm realizing things, that's definitely this Venus retrograde. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why that is. And of course, I'll tell you where it falls in your chart in regards to where Capricorn is in your chart. But it's important to note that anytime we have a retrograde, it is not a time of action. It is a time of rest. It is a time of review, reflection. So like, if you feel inclined to like do things or to make decisions, vibe, coast, chill, nap. Like it's not the time right now to make decisions, but it is a time to be completely and frankly honest with yourself when it comes to, especially with it being in the planet of Venus, your relationships and what you value and how you are showing up in your relationships. And ultimately, are you honoring your largest sense of self-worth when it comes to how you allow people to treat you, what boundaries you're setting, what boundaries you are not setting, and honestly, if your boundaries are actually just walls. So this is like a really hyperactively, it's just, we're kind of seeing things for what they are and being really honest, not only with what we are allowing, but what we are believing when it comes to our sense of self-worth. Oh, thank you. Oh, Jasmine, I die for you, babe. But yes, I think it's so important to recognize the fact that what we're experiencing in our physical reality is directly derivative of where our beliefs surrounding our sense of self-worth lie. And so the beautiful thing about this Venus retrograde is that Pluto is playing a really, really large role in it. It's conjoining. So Venus is a planet that rules relationships, it rules values, it rules how we experience love and how we express it, how we allow it into our lives, and just honestly how we value ultimately ourselves. And then we have Pluto in the game, which is a planet that rules the subconscious. It rules our shadows. It rules the shit that we grabbed and we learned and we built and fed from our childhood, honestly. These both planets doing such a large dance in the cosmos is really just like, what did you learn from your childhood, from conditioning, from the media, from a very early point in your life that has kind of stuck in your subconscious relative to your self-worth? Did you learn that you needed to perform, that it was conditioned, that you needed to be a version of yourself in order to be validated or liked? Or, I mean, I've just, girl, I have realized, it's been a really, I'm like, how much tea do I serve? I've just realized that I have been standing in my own way of calling the kind of partnership it is that I want in my life. And it's because there's a large part of me that becomes very performative, and I kind of assess what the other party, or a version of myself that the other party would want, and then I kind of like become that. And I realized that that is derivative of a limiting belief I learned about myself very early on. And I feel like with Pluto being in the game right now, we are really looking at not only what limiting beliefs, what habits, what cycles are we feeding? But what's most important is like, where did it stem from? And if you have an experience with rejection, an experience with being told you weren't enough or anything along those lines, it's important to look at that for what it was, to validate your feelings regarding it, to hold anyone who can be accountable. But ultimately, what's most important here is to know that you can rewrite the narrative. So for example, if you experienced bullying or rejection in a like very early part of your life, you can, or you could have harbored and interpreted that as I am not enough, or I need to be another version of me in order to be accepted. But rewriting that narrative now looks like saying, I was standing in such a state of authenticity that it mirrored something that made other people uncomfortable, and they responded with aggression rather than acceptance. Or now I have learned how important it is to be more radically myself. However you can shift the narrative to fit and honor and support who you have evolved into now is going to be the most powerful way you can alchemize this. Because the thing is, babe, we all have wounds, like, in traumas. That is just part of like the human experience. However, we don't have to become them. We don't have to wear them as our identities, and we don't have to hyper focus on healing our traumas so much that we don't actually allow them to mend themselves. And so it's important to note, I can't unlive that experience. I can't heal it away. It'll always kind of be something that happened. But I can choose my perspective. I can choose what I learned from it. I can choose to believe this is something that happened for me, and then just like move the fuck on. Like, move on. Like, you don't have to consistently become that trauma, wear that trauma. I think this transit especially is like asking you to take that pain, to use it to be something that is a tool, and then to move on and like to build a new life from the lesson that you have learned from it. Thank you everyone for joining, by the way. So yeah, so basically with Pluto and Venus kind of doing this dance, honey, what have you learned in regards to your self-worth, and how is that showing up in the relationships that you have now, and the relationships that you have to work, that you have to just career, money, your familial, platonic, professional relationships? How is it showing up in not only how you are treating people, how you're allowing people to treat you, and what dynamics, what people-pleasing tendencies are showing up? Reframe it, absolutely. And it's important to note that people from your past may be coming up right now, whether it's physically or in dreams or whatever the case may be. Now is not the time to take action, whether that action is breaking up or rekindling or whatever the case is, but rather to be very, very, very intentional with what did the role that you played in my life teach me about myself, about what I desire, but ultimately who I want to be when I have what it is that I desire, right? Like, I think we can glorify, romanticize a relationship or a thing that we're calling in, but like, do you know who you want to be once it arrives? And if you do know who you want to be once it arrives, are you already standing in that embodiment? And if there's any, most of all, I think it's really our subconscious limiting beliefs that are being rewired here. It's not necessarily like what we're consciously telling ourselves. We can tell ourselves that we're confident, which is something that I realized. I was like, I'm so confident. And then I realized with this transit, I was like, there's a lot of subconscious shit that is not supportive of the notion that I am confident. So we're really looking at that and understanding that it is through fueling and feeding and rewiring and sort of alchemizing our experience with our own sense of self-worth that everything around us begins to change. So yes, in summation, really use this retrograde to be hyperactively focused on reviewing and like on a crazy level. And honestly, I want to say I am someone who is a very strong advocate for mending and blending emotion and logic. But if there's any time to be logical, it would be now. Because the thing about Venus being in Capricorn is that Capricorn is a sign that above all else honors efficiency. Like, am I actually getting something out of this relationship? And not in a narcissistic way, but rather like, is this something that gives me something? Is this something that I'm only giving to and not receiving anything back? Am I getting any sort of nourishment off of it? Oh, thank you. And so it's really important to recognize, like, is this something that is actually giving my life some sort of breath? And if it isn't, cut it off, babe. And this is on a romantic level, also on a platonic level, on an emotional level. And I'll tell you where Venus is in your chart relative to what your rising sign is. But also I want to note that anytime we have a Venus in retrograde, side note, you're probably going to want to like chop your hair off or dye it or get a tattoo or like drastically change your aesthetic. Cute, but like don't do anything too permanent is the only thing I would say, because sometimes we leave the retrograde feeling like, why did I do that? So anyway, knowing that this is a time to really look at our limiting beliefs, our subconscious beliefs, what we learned from day one, and alchemize that into a new set of beliefs. Thank you so much. This is where Capricorn falls in your chart relative to your rising sign and how you can work alongside it. So if you are in Aries rising, do we have any Aries risings in the house? This will be in your 10th house. So it has everything to do with, wait, this is the right thing? Full moon. Yeah, okay, cool. So it'll be in your 10th house. So 10th house is the house of career, but also it's just the house that rules how the world experiences you and like what your platform says. And a platform can be a platform, but it can also be like just the people around you. How do they experience the way that you share your wisdom, the way that you share your essence, and all those beautiful things. So if you have any limiting beliefs surrounding like success and how successful you can be, now would be the time to really look at where did you learn that. The 9th house, Taurus, has everything to do with higher learning, and also just like, above all else, travel too, but how you define divinity, how you experience your divinity, and are you standing in a place where you are honoring your own intuitive power? So if you have any limiting beliefs, especially if you grew up in a religious background, or like an organized religious background, you can kind of be in a space where you are disconnected from your own intuitive ability because you've been kind of taught it's something to hide. So now would be a time to rewire that. Sun in 10th house. Oof. Oh, girl. DM me. Gemini rising, this will be in your 8th house. 8th house is a deep, deep, deep house. It has everything to do with your subconscious, honestly. So now is really a time to look at, if on a conscious level, I'm saying all of my affirmations, I'm doing the work, I'm journaling, on a subconscious level, what am I telling myself every day? When a thing happens, do I say, oh, I deserve this? Or, of course, that wouldn't work out for me. Is there fear? Just like, what is the back of your brain saying rather than the front of your brain? And also, 8th house rules other people's money. So if you get a sponsorship or something like that, go off, queens. Cancer risings, oh, I love you guys. 7th house, relationships, babe. Relationships. I mean, this is the best time to have a transit in the 7th house too, because it's really like, what are my relationships saying about, what are my relationships saying about me and my belief in myself and where I'm standing in my own truth? And am I actually honoring and standing in my worth, or the worth that I think I have? Which is deep, so that's cute. Leo rising, it'll be in your 6th house. This is the house that rules self-care, physical health, emotional health, mental health. Just, are you actually honoring your health on those levels? And if you have any limiting beliefs surrounding you being deserving of taking care of your health, why is that? Virgo risings, it'll be in your 5th house, inner child healing, babe. Inner child healing. That has everything to do with coming back to creativity, coming back to play, and ultimately reviewing your childhood, seeing if you've been looking at any parts of it through a rose-colored lens, or if you had been over-demonizing parts of your childhood in order to have a victim mentality that can sometimes be safer, which is tea, but it is important to recognize the fact that we can create a narrative and we can really live in it. So look at your childhood, step back into a state of playfulness, of creativity, and ultimately recognizing what does your inner child need in this given moment, and are you honoring that? That's me. Oh my God, we love a good Virgo rising. They're always the prettiest too. Okay, Libra rising, also very pretty. 4th house. This is a tough house to have this in. This is house of home. This is house of, am I a safe home for myself? What is my inner dialogue feeding me? Do I feel safe in my physical home? This also may be a time to move, or to consider moving, or to consider where do I live when I'm at my utmost potential? And also just a lot of mommy issues can come up. Also with 10th house was Aries risings. A lot of daddy stuff can come up. Libra risings, a lot of mommy stuff can come up. So just look at it. Just look at it. That's all. Me trying to move through this fast, and I'm also like cross-eyed. Scorpio rising, this will be in your 3rd house. So really looking at, what is your relationship with your voice? Do you feel like you are able to set boundaries, to speak your mind, to speak your truth? If you want to write a book or do something that is using the written word, that would be a time to embark on that. And also just to recognize, like, do I feel safe and comfortable speaking whatever my truth is in any degree, whether it's to a person, out loud, if you want to start sharing more, just what is your relationship with your own voice? Okay, Sagittarius Risings, this is me. It's in our second house. So is there any other Sagittarius Risings in here? It's just me. I'm going a little bit crazy, guys. So second house rules our values, which is crazy because this is a transit that has so much to do with value. So it's really, yes, it has to do with money and material things, how we value the things around us and the people around us, but ultimately, like, how do you value yourself? And are your actions mirroring what you say you think about yourself? Which is T. I've been doing a lot of journaling, and it's fun. Capricorn Risings, obviously this is in your first house. Identity, honestly, are you standing in who you want to be? Are you playing it safe at all? Are you sort of diluting your truth in order to kind of like fit something that is palatable or digestible for other people? Or are you actually being brave with how you express yourself and adventurous with how you express yourself, and ultimately just honest with who you are and your gender identity and your expressive identity and your creative identity, babe? Who are you? Basically, you're in a real existential crisis phase. We love that for you. Aquarius Risings, there's two more and then I'll move on. Sorry, this is taking so long. Aquarius Risings, this is in your 12th house. 12th house is also the house of subconscious and intuitive ability. It's just anytime we have a transit in the 10th house, especially because, in the 12th house, especially with Pluto being there, I'll go back to Libra Rising, I got you. But 12th house with Pluto being in there, where's your psychic ability at? And are you nourishing that? Because I think obviously we all have access to intuitive and clairvoyant ability, but are we actually honoring it? Are we actually allowing ourselves to feel powerful, to use it? And if there's any limiting beliefs surrounding exploring what that means to have a third eye, to have an active intuition, why is that? Aquarius, oh, we love that for you. And then lastly, Pisces Risings, and I'll go back to Libra Rising. 11th house. So this is a really important house to have this transit in because this has everything to do with friendships and having to do with like your relationship with the internet, number one. So like, what is your relationship with social media? Are you being honest? Are you being over-satiated with it, overwhelmed by it, overstimulated by it? Is it measuring your sense of self-worth? What's the feedback there? But also like your relationships platonically, what do they say about how you feel about yourself? Are you people pleasing? What role are you playing in your friendships? All of those things. And then yes, Libra Rising was the 4th house. Once again, it's just the house of mother and the house of home. So this could be a time to reflect on like, do I want to move? Do I want to be in a different place physically? But also just like, am I my own home? Do I feel safe in the way that I speak to myself and the way that I carry my environment with me? And mom stuff. So just like looking at what you have learned about yourself relative to what your mom taught you, which can be a good thing, bad thing. It's really kind of whatever is your specific situation. But ultimately, just am I honoring what I know my truth to be in regards to my self-worth? So that is the Venus retrograde tea when it comes to your risings. Let me know if your specific one like resonated. I know mine is just... She's timely. But also noting that today is the full moon in Gemini and Jupiter is here. So this is just, obviously there are themes that are specifically relative to Gemini that I'll talk about. It has everything to do with like speaking your truth, being creatively explorative, experiencing art in a more intentional way. Beautiful. But I think what's just the most important to note is that because this is the last full moon of the year and there's no eclipse happening right now, it's just the most potent time to be so intentional with like, what have I learned about my limiting beliefs, my draining relationships, about the things that are not supportive of my utmost potential, and how can I take the power back in releasing them? And not just like on a cute like, okay, bye, like, okay, I'll stop, like whatever, but like actually being really intentional with like, no. Because I think I say this all the time, but like, and I learned this from I don't know if you guys have heard about To Be Magnetic. It's like this group, it's like a neuroscience manifest, whatever. They always talk about how the biggest word that you can use to raise your vibration is no. And now is a really important time to stand really firm in your no's and to be really clear on what it is that you need to be saying no to. It's really less of a time to be saying yes. If anything, saying yes to your potential, but ultimately to be saying no to what no longer aligns with what you have learned you at your fullest potential looks like and feels like and acts like, right? To really assume the identity of who you want to walk into, right? It's not like I, am quitting smoking. It's I am not a smoker. Or it's not, I take photographs. I am a photographer, right? It's really standing in the identity, assuming it, and no longer allowing any limiting beliefs, any learned belief, any conditioning, or anything that has told you that you need to work harder or perform for or become, but rather that you already innately are. So I hope that makes sense. Also, it's, my God, there's so much to say and I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm so scatterbrained today. This full moon is also conjunct the North Node. So this is such a beautiful thing to look at. And I shared a journaling prompt relative to this on La Luna, but I think we can equate our purpose to our career, because that's kind of where we're at societally, especially if you're in the States. But ultimately, your purpose can be experienced through your career, but in essence, it is simply who you are and what you bring to every environment that you step into. And so right now, with this full moon conjoining your North Node, the North Node, thank you, my love. It's so important to note, how do you define your purpose, right? Do you believe that fate is destined or chosen? Because either way, there's a belief that there's something you're meant to be doing. You create it or you figure it out along the way, but there's something you're meant to be doing. And yes, you can fuel that and feed that through your career, but ultimately, like, what do you bring to a group of people? What do you bring to a room? What is your purpose when it comes to how people get to experience you, whether it's digitally or in person, through your words, through your work, through your art? How are people changed by what it is that you do? And with this full moon conjoining this North Node, it's getting really clear on, like, what is it that I want to bring to the collective? How do I want to inspire? How do I want to change? Or also, like, is my purpose to simply just play and to, like, not do anything, but to also, like, lead by example in the fact that you can play and that you don't have to forfeit security and safety, you know what I mean, for growth. Whatever the point is, that if there is something that you feel like you're meant to be doing in this incarnation, what are the things that are holding you back from standing in that? And that could be, once again, your limiting beliefs, just thinking that you need to be another version of yourself because you've been told that that is the most, that's the most comfortable version of you, or that's the easiest version of you to be. What is your purpose, and what is standing in the way of you standing in that purpose? Which, once again, does not have to be career. It can be, but ultimately it's just like, I was gonna say if you died, but we hate that. What if you were on, remember E! True Hollywood Story? Does anyone remember that show? It was like, anytime a person was famous, they would go to, like, their background story. And, like, all the people around them would, like, talk about, oh my God, like, we always knew he was gonna be doing this thing because he was always dancing, or he was always playing, or, we all learned from him to be really, like, radically brave with your creative expression. And so, like, if everyone had to sit in front of a camera and talk about the way you've impacted them and the way and the things that they have learned about being in your life, what would they say? Or rather, what would you want them to say? And how can you now start to stand in the embodiment of what that version of you would do and be and choose? Yeah, there's so much more that I want to say, but my brain is on 4% clearly. So I think we can just kind of already journal, which, if you want to actually journal on this, I really would invite you to, but also if you kind of just want to, like, sit with the question and see what comes up and then journal on it later, that would definitely be something that is beautiful as well. Ultimately, though, I kind of just want you to extract the truth that comes from this prompt, because we'll kind of work with it when we do some breath work. So the prompt is, let me pull it up. And maybe I should type it, or if anyone wants to type it for me, that could be lovely. But the first prompt, and of course this is derivative of this, the first prompt is derivative of the Venus retrograde that is obviously going retrograde today, because that one has everything to do with looking at the ways in which we have learned something that stands against being in a state of limitless self-worth, and how we can release that, how we can change the narrative of it. And then the second prompt has everything to do with, like, what we are leaving in 2021 and what we are choosing to bring into 2022. So the first one is, where did I learn a limiting belief about my self-worth? And I really invite you to be radically honest about this, whether it was an experience with rejection, a childhood thing, conditioning, or maybe just, I don't know, I think mine are derivative of a few instances and circumstances, but I think ultimately my own brain started to believe that, I don't know, I had to be performative, I had to be a different version of me in order to be accepted. And so I think it's important to note that, like, it can sometimes be you, and it's okay if it's you. Oh, thank you, OT, you are the love of my life. And then the second part of that is, what is my new narrative? So like, what is a new story that you can create from that? So once again, if you were bullied, like the old story would be, I have to be something else in order to be accepted. The new story can be, I mirror to people what they are uncomfortable with because of how radically authentic I am, which is tea. So we can sit with that for a second. The way that I don't have my journal near me, and I have my laptop. So we can just sit with that for a couple minutes, and of course, definitely take more time to, flesh it out later on. And if you want, I can already give the second prompt if you choose to do that instead, which is knowing now who you are and your fullest potential. What is a mantra I'm bringing into 2022? And what's a limiting belief I'm leaving in 2021? It's long, so I'll type it. I don't want anyone to have to carry that weight. What's a mantra I'm bringing into 2022? And what's a limiting belief? I typed in Helen. That is not the word. I'm leaving. This angle, by the way. Okay, beautiful. So we can just spend some time writing on that. And yeah, we can reconvene. And of course, if you want to share what comes up, please feel free to. Just a couple more minutes, we can come back. Can you guys hear my typing? LOL. And for anyone just joining, we are journaling a little bit and then we'll kind of come back and discuss it. Okay. Coming back a bit. If you are still writing, please keep writing. Don't even let me interrupt you. Also, if you want to kind of sit with this, especially tonight, I think that would be a beautiful thing to do. I think these are two very important prompts to kind of really dissect, because I think the truth that comes out of them is going to be really, really powerful and a useful tool for how we step into the embodiment of self in this next era. So if anything came up, or if you want to share your mantra, please do, because we'll work with the mantra when we do some breath work. But for me, honey, I'm not even gonna get into the first prompt because it's gonna be just a therapy session of me. But for the second prompt, I think I am innately worthy was something that I really needed to come back to, and something that I'm gonna stand in very boldly in this next era of self. And something that I'm leaving behind is that I have to perform for validation, and that has bled into my romantic relationships, to my social media presence. I've been honest always, but like very performative, thinking that I need to be more sexualized or funnier or just like whatever I think people would want from me. I kind of become that. And so it's important to note that like who I am in that given moment and in that given essence is enough. Thank you. So if you feel called to share anything that came up, please do. But otherwise, what we can quickly do is kind of sift through what house this full moon is transiting for you, and then we'll get into breathwork, and then that's it, I promise. I did not know the more you say no, the more you raise your vibration. It's because I think no and boundaries are the loudest way that you can say, I honor my energy, I honor my worth, because saying yes is a bit more easy, especially if yes is honoring a people-pleasing tendency, then that's kind of feeding something that should probably be worked through. But ultimately saying no means saying, I am above that, I have cared about myself in a deeper way that has allowed me to recognize that that is not in alignment with where I'm at right now. No is the highest thing you can do when it comes to standing in a manifestive state. So I've been working on my nose. Thank you so much. Oh, not charming. I am an empowered, capable, and worth woman, able to accomplish everything I set forth to, period. I am enough. Oh my God. Imposter syndrome is just so real and will hit you at any period of life. And it's something that's very much learned. So it's beautiful that you're releasing that. No is a complete sentence. Child. Not this. It sure is. It sure is. I'm worthy. Yeah, beautiful. Good. Yeah, it was really important that I put innately too, because I was like, I am worthy because people like me, or boys think I'm hot. And I was like, or I am worthy because I am. When your life is changing, it can be scary but important. Yeah, sorry, it just like paused. If there's any change that is happening in your life right now, I would immediately equate that to the eclipse series that we have been experiencing, that we will continue to experience in the new year. And if there's any apprehension that you have relative to change, you're gonna have to get comfortably uncomfortable with it, or uncomfortably comfortable with it. But it's happening for you, for sure. Thank you for sharing. It means the world if you guys share. It really, really does. And also it like kind of feeds it a bit more because there's more eyes on it. So yeah, so this full moon, really quickly, I won't spend an hour on this either because I be talking, child. Aries rising, this full moon will be in your third house. Once again, this is the house of the mind, of how we use our voice. And with it being in the sign of Gemini, if there's anything creative that you want to say, releasing anything that's standing in the way of saying the thing and of creating it and of standing in your truth ultimately. If there's a no that you want to say, if there's a yes that you want to say, that there's any fear surrounding, letting that go. I accept that my existence doesn't have to be a linear experience. Oof. Girl, not the Bible. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Carly. That's beautiful. Taurus risings, this will be in your second house. Once again, this is a house of value, of self. So if there is any, I hate that this is all about limiting beliefs, but it really, really is. But ultimately, just with Jupiter being in play here too as well, if there's anything that you want to, I think embark on that can bring you financial wellness, now would definitely be the time to do that. But ultimately, just like, what is my relationship with my own sense of self, and how can I begin to be a little bit more braver with how I stand in my sense of self-worth? Whether that means putting yourself out there more, shooting more shots, babe, creating something for yourself. Just yes, that is what that is. Ooh, child. Okay, so Gemini would be in your first house, obviously. So identity, just shifting your identity, allowing your identity to align with who you've grown into be. And I think it's important to note that we can get so, girl, let me put my book down. We can get so addicted to healing because it is a safe space to be in. When you think that you are constantly in a state of construction and sort of like healing through trauma and doing something for the betterment of self, we can get so stuck in that cycle that we can start to say no to things that are actually good for us because we're not ready yet. We're still evolving. We're still this, we're still that. And so it's important to note that like you have already come a very, very, very long way, and you are already standing in a very evolved, grown, worthy of praise version of yourself. And so you can continue to heal while standing in like the fruits of your labor. And sometimes the healing comes from stopping the healing and like allowing yourself to marinate in what you've already built. So I hope that that makes sense, but just not like, for example, a lot of people can like, and this isn't for everyone, but like a lot of people can go back to school because it's safer to be a student. It's safer to be in a learning stage rather than like an embarking on like being in the world in your adult phase. And so it's important to note that like you don't have to hide in the healing. You can kind of like stand in the embodiment of like, I've done enough already and I'll continue to do something because healing is part of the human experience, but like I'm already enough, basically. Yes. What are you discussing now? Where our moon is? Basically where this full moon, what house it's transiting your full moon. I am the playful, willing participant of my life. Yes. Yes, thank you, Valeria. I love you so much. I need to hit you up, actually. I did that for years as a professional student. Yeah, there was one time where I was like, do I want my master's? And I was like, no, you don't. You just are scared of like being in the world without having like the umbrella of like, oh, I'm still learning, so don't expect anything from me. Like, I'm still healing, so don't expect me to be like my fullest potential. Like, you can already be in the process and a masterpiece. So yeah. Anyway, so relative to your Gemini rising, if it's in your first house, allow yourself to already stand in the embodiment of your potential while knowing that there is more to heal. Obviously, there always will be. Cancer rising in your 12th house, your intuitive ability, your psychic ability. Now you'll probably be having really, really, really potent dreams. Or yeah, just pay attention to your clairvoyancies right now and what comes through for them. And ultimately just like, am I honoring my intuitive ability? Am I honoring my psychic ability? Leo risings in your 11th house, your relationship with social media and friendships. So with the full moon being in there, you could be releasing relationships that are not serving you, honestly. But also ultimately, maybe perhaps now would be a good time to take a social media break as we are on social media, but allowing that break to be a space where you review and reflect on what your true relationship with social media is, and if you are deriving wealth and nourishment from it, or if it is draining your nourishment. Virgo risings, this is in your 10th house, the dream world, since Neptune went direct. Oh my god, yeah, and you are, I mean, your third eye is like stupid activated, so I'm sure your dreams have been wild. Oh, are you a Cancer? Okay, well, sorry. Me going on 4 tangents. Virgo risings, this is in your 10th house, so there could be a lot of like seeds planted. Once again, this is not the time to take action. This is just a time to review, reflect, get really honest, set intention, just not already like be the intention. But also with it being in your 10th house, if there are any ideas surrounding career shifts or how you want to stand in the way that people experience you, now would be a time to really reflect on that. Beautiful. I know. I love everything about that. Libra rising is 9th house. Travel. Now is a beautiful time to take yourself on a little adventure, even if it's a staycation, babe. Just go see something new. And yeah, I knew. I was about to say, you're not a Cancer rising. Wait, ooh, tell me. Me actually waiting, because I'm like, wait, did it resonate, or do you want me to go back? Let me know. But for Libra risings, career shifts, who's shifting? I just got here, sis. But also, I will note, 10th house is the house of purpose and of platform, which can equate to a career, but also it's just like, how do you stand in your purpose relative to your essence? Like, is there a new thing that people need to be experiencing by being in your presence? Do you want to be more vocal about your intuitive ability, your wisdom, and just like, how is the world experiencing you? Do you want to be more vulnerable? That kind of vibe. But you know, maybe career too, babe. We don't know what's in that bag. Scorpio rising. Well, I don't know if we've done that already. We'll get to that. I got you. Yeah, Libra rising, maybe going on a trip, going on a staycation, recognizing your relationship with divinity and how you experience divinity. And then for Scorpio risings, your 8th house. Oh my God. Wow. That's wild. Yeah, so Scorpios are just innately intuitive and have an already really high functioning subconscious. So with this full moon sort of transiting your house of subconscious alongside Jupiter as well, though, it's really a time to reflect on like, what is my inner dialogue? What am I thinking every day? And separating your conscious from your subconscious and really looking at how fear is playing a role in how you're feeling about yourself or the things that you're saying. And yeah, just really looking at your subconscious and being really intentional with what you are ingesting. You know, our brain can't really tell fake from real. So if you're like watching a lot of like true crime shows or like things that are really fear provoking, now's the time to be a little bit more intentional with like what you're consuming, what music you're listening to, what things you're watching, and all those things. Yes, this is a spider. I love her. Thank you. That means the world. Gemini rising. We already passed Gemini. Wait, did we? We did. Yeah, it's your identity, babe. Your identity. Your identity, babe. Who are you? Basically, this is an existential crisis era for you, but we love that because we need a good breakdown in order to build something more aligned. And then for Sagittarius risings, this is me. Relationships, which a lot's been happening there. Just, yeah. I'm just so overwhelmed with existing right now. Just, yeah. Are your relationships honoring where you're, oh my God, we have 10 minutes and we haven't done breath work. Okay, so yeah, relationship, 7th house, Capricorn risings, it's in your 6th house, your health, your routine. What are you doing on every single day? And is your every single day routine honoring your emotional, physical, and mental health? But also just like, do you feel deserving of honoring that? And is what you do on a day-to-day honoring who you're deciding to evolve into? I'm saying so many words. Aquarius rising, 5th house. This is the inner child house. Getting creative again, reviewing and reflecting on your childhood, and ultimately just redefining your relationship with play and allowing yourself to define play as productive. And lastly, Pisces risings. Are there any Pisces risings? Pisces risings always look like fairies to me. This will be in your 4th house. So the 4th house is the house of home, the house of mother. Mommy stuff may come up, but ultimately just like, do I feel safe in myself? Am I in my own home? Now, with that being said, thank you so much for sticking around. If you have stuck around this long, it means the world to me. I would love to end this with a little bit of like a breathwork meditation that'll kind of help us visualize what we're leaving in 2021, who we're stepping into in 2022, really coming back to those mantras that we derived from the journaling prompt. And if you didn't get a mantra out of that, whatever intuitively comes up upon the whole experience, please just work with that. But if you have to go, if you don't want to do it, thank you for sticking around. You're incredible. I love you guys so much. I could cry. So yeah, so if you want to stick around for the breath work, please do. Once again, coming back to the body, stretching out. It wasn't dry, I promise. Beautiful, beautiful. And when you feel called to, once again, you can meet me at your center. And for those of you who have not done breath work, this will not be, hi Alicia, I love you so much. This will not be a tough one. This is a soft breath, and it'll be a 3-part breath, starting with the belly, the chest, and then an exhale through the mouth. So it looks like a, going as fast and as deeply as you feel called to. I'll walk you through it once it's time. But yes, I will share the whole thing if you miss anything. But meeting me at your center, just taking an already alchemizing and normal breath in. And releasing that. Another alchemizing breath in. And releasing that. Bringing your full awareness to your body, to this given moment, to the temperature of the room, to the texture of whatever your body is resting on. Feeling fully present, fully connected within community. Letting go and releasing any tension perhaps being held in the eyebrows, in the jaw. Allowing your shoulders to fall. and for yourself to be held not only by the structure that's supporting you, but by the universe, by your higher self, and in this moment, any guides or ancestors that you'd like to call in. All in alignment with our highest good. Feeling held and supported by the cosmos, I invite you to begin to enter your mind and reflecting on what we've discussed and what's come up perhaps in our journaling prompts or just in our time together. I invite you to visualize and visit and experience a moment, a thing where you learned a limiting belief about your self-worth. It can be uncomfortable, but we invite in discomfort. We sit and feel discomfort. We allow discomfort to teach us. And so whatever comes up in this experience, in this conversation, in this place, really look at it, feel it, be with it. And standing amidst this thing, hearing what it is that it taught you about yourself, about your worth. I invite you to visualize either hugging the person, hugging the people, hugging the thing, or even hugging the version of yourself that experienced it, whether you were a child or just a less evolved version of yourself now. Embracing them, and ultimately thanking them or comforting them. For understanding that this experience is what molded and deepened you. And that you get to choose the narrative you walk forward with. So connecting with one hand on our chest and the other hand on our belly. Sitting with what we thought that situation was supposed to teach us. We can breathe through and release it through our breath. Really pushing through any stagnancy, any limiting beliefs, any habits and cycles that support this outdated narrative, this outdated version of ourselves. Once again, what this breath looks like is taking an inhale through the belly, an inhale through the chest, and releasing. At your speed and at your tenacity, when you're ready, you can begin. Allowing any sensations, any feelings, thoughts to come up, to move through. Releasing this old and outdated story, this old outdated narrative, this belief that is no longer true. Last few breaths. Last two. Last one. And breathe in fully. Holding on to that breath, squeezing the body, holding on as deeply as you can, inhaling more if you're able to. And exhaling, shaking it out, letting it go. Before sitting back at heart center. In this moment of complete openness, of complete surrender, invite in that mantra that you're bringing into 2022. Planting it in your heart, feeding it with your breath, repeating it out loud to yourself. As many times as you want, as loudly as you want. I am innately worthy. Rubbing it on your body, steeping in it, visualizing yourself dripping in this affirmation, in this mantra, in this truth, in this new narrative. Setting the intention that every affirmation, every mantra spoken verbally or internally within this collective is watered with your choices, with your intention, with how you show up, and with how you speak to yourself, and the grace and the rest that you give to yourself, that you feel bravery, that you stand in this truth, and that no matter what your mantra was, that you root yourself in the knowing that you are innately worthy. There's nothing to be done or performed or convinced, and that you are deserving. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Breathing into this intention and releasing it. This may end because it is an hour, but if it disconnects, I just want you to know how much I love each and every one of you. If you ever want to work one-on-one, I'm always here, but otherwise, enjoy this full moon, walk into this new year with love and grace and self-compassion, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, it's still here, so cool. So if anyone wants to say how that was, or if you're still steeping in it, sit in it, babe. Go back, journal on those prompts. And if you can, visit the ocean today, visit land today. Yeah. Beautiful. Can't wait to work with you. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay. Bye, guys. See you next time.